for virtual reality, when and especially in which we would be mostly talking about like majorly we would be talking about the Meta OVR plugin essentials. Yeah. So it's gonna be really great for the learning part because in this whole thing, with the person whom I was talking there se is basically Rahul, who is the lead XR developer at Parallax Labs. So yes, that's how I am formally inviting you now, Rahul.
Thank you, Javi. Javi.
Yep. And also to the people, again, it's just a request. Try to have this whole experience hands-on. It's gonna give you like a very good experience. And also the second thing, when I actually talk about Rahul, I would preferably say that please do have a look to his LinkedIn, please, because when you see his experience and all, you'll see that there's a lot he has done till now. When it comes to the inspiration part, he's literally killing it. Okay, he's the person who actually learned all the skills on his own, like the way he has been climbing the like literally the stairs of especially the success in the XR domain is really commendable. So yes, over to you, Rahul. The stage is all yours, and would be really looking forward to learn even personally as well from you. So yes, let's get started, and if anyone has any question, please feel free to put it in the chat, or we'll also have like put it in the inbox, and also we'll also have a Q&A at the later part. So yes, let's get started.
Okay, so let's start. I'll just start with sharing my screen. I assume that all of you have Unity, and once like you have Unity, like I would just let you know like as to like what are the basic setups that you might need to do. So just give me a heads up in case if you can see my screen. So maybe I can just kick off. Perfect. Nice. So, when you go inside Unity, there are a couple of things that you might want to do. Okay. So, depending on what your project is, like suppose your project is for PC or PCVR, or it's supposedly for mobile. Okay. For creating the final application. Okay. Now I'm starting with the final app. The word final application is because until unless you have that final application, there will be no submission in the first place. Like, so in order to have that final application, what you would want to make sure, first of all, is to like go to your Unity Hub, first of all, check the version that you are having and that you're working on, and then just click on this settings button. Once you click on it, click on add modules. If you're developing it for PC, you're probably good to go. You just need the Visual Studio Code that should be already there. But in case if you're working on Android, that's a completely different story. Okay, Android is for Android you need a separate like platform which is Android itself and Unity Hub. So you should just make sure that you have installed it because if you have not installed this, you cannot do the final build and you cannot upload your application. But you can always do this later. This part is important for your final stage of your application. But yeah, this is the one of the most important thing because this you might forget at the very end. So let's start with something simple. Okay, let's start with a simple project, any project. So let's you can just click on new project, and as far as I feel like you guys must be aware of how Unity rendering works. Okay, so Unity has three types of rendering. Unity has built-in, there is URP and there's HDRP. Okay. Simply बोलने जाए तो फिर built-in is like it has the worst graphics but is the most performance. So if you want if you want your game to run very fast, okay, but you don't really care about visuals. Like supposedly example is Minecraft or any other like mobile game that you see. If you want to run them, and if you are not like if you want to share your story at a very good visual at a very good like at a very comfortable environment, but at the same time, you don't want to emphasize on the graphics a lot. Built-in is the perfect thing for you. Universal render pipeline is basically not too good and not too bad. Okay, so universal render pipeline में you can make things look decent. Okay, like अगर आप VR में कुछ भी देखोगे and if you feel like it is good enough, it is like somewhat realistic but not very realistic, then it's probably created in universal render pipeline. Okay, and final is HDRP, which is like very high definition. If you want realistic, say realistic graphics, and like you want to like just capture realism into your VR experience, then you should go for HDRP. But for majority of the case, my suggestion is like you should go for URP because it's a very safe choice. Okay. If you go for URP, the catch is like you can always have a jump to like HDRP and you can always revert back to like your built-in pipeline. And उसमें आपका आपको flexibility भी होती है कि like you can run your code fast, you can have a very well-built application which is never lagging. At the same time, you're having good graphics, which is very rare in VR games, but that is what makes VR games sellable. And as a career, you should like always aim to have a very good VR experience and even as a submission. Okay. So I would just start as a like universal 3D. Universal 3D means like it will be 3D and it will be using universal render pipeline. यहाँ पे description लिखा है. So you can just put any of the name of the project. Okay, so I'll be just saying for like so this is just a testing online other tutorial project. Okay, once you create the project, you have to wait for it to load. It will take time to load. Till then, there are also a couple of things that you might want to make sure that you have. Some of them are like applications. Okay, applications mean there comes couple of applications like I would say you should just go to Unity Hub and first of all make sure like you have everything here to download beforehand because you might have to download the Meta XR SDK. So if you just type Meta here, okay, if you just type Meta here and search, you will find n number of Meta SDKs. Okay, so just keep this beforehand and before beginning as well, you might need couple of applications. Okay, couple of application. Suppose आप पीसी के लिए डेवलप कर रहे हो ओके अब पीसी से ये हेडसेट को मैं कनेक्ट कैसे करूँ आई हैव दिस Quest 3 headset but how do I connect it to my PC so for that you might need a MetaQuest link application okay MetaQuest link application Quest link okay so this application basically helps you to connect your PC to your VR, and this will basically help you in testing वगैरह. Okay, so अगर आप VR headset के लिए एक बिल्ड बना रहे हो तो इसमें एक प्रॉब्लम ये आती है कि आपको बार बार बिल्ड अपलोड करना पड़ता है. Okay, and you don't want that. Okay, you don't want that reason being is because it gets very hectic. अभी like suppose if you make one small changes, you don't want to like grab this VR headset यार मैं पहन लूँ और मैं वापस सेम चीज बार बार टेस्ट करते रहो. Okay, उसके कन्वीनियंस के लिए यू हैव दिस एप्लीकेशन कॉल्ड एज मेटाक्वेस्ट लिंक मेटाक्वेस्ट लिंक बेसिकली क्या करता है वो आपके यूनिटी इंजन जो है इट कनेक्ट्स इट विद द हेडसेट एंड व्हाट इट डज इज यू कैन जस्ट प्ले इट इन द एडिटर इटसेल्फ ठीक है सपोज मैं यूनिटी का एप्लीकेशन चल रहा है मैं बस हेडसेट पहन के चालू कर दूंगी okay so this is one of the things which I would suggest you to try it because like using this application will actually like reduce your development time a lot faster okay and it's a very easy thing to use and supposedly like suppose mid submission में आपको मन किया कि नहीं मुझे मोबाइल के लिए नहीं बनाना है मुझे पीसी के लिए बनाना है ओके पीसी के लिए बनाना है तो मुझे पीसी के लिए भी टेस्टिंग करना पड़ेगा तो आप साइमल्टेनियसली मोबाइल के लिए भी टेस्टिंग कर रहे हैं एंड एट द सेम टाइम यू आर डूइंग इट फॉर पीसी एज वेल ओके तो आपको ये फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी मिल जाती है कि थ्रू आउट दिस हैकेथॉन I can create application for both. I can create application for my mobile phone. At the same time, I can create application for my like a PC application as well. Okay. तो आपको एक flexibility मिल जाती है. Second thing that I would suggest you to download is it's called Meta Quest Developer Hub. Okay. MetaQuest Developer Hub and MetaQuest Link. ठीक है दोनों में मेटा आ रहा है फेसबुक का है और मेटा का है ओके लाइक इट्स द सेम थिंग नाउ सो what this application does is basically I have this headset. Now I'm plugging it in. Okay. Now I'm plugging it in. Now, whatever is happening on my headset, I'll just check if audio is there. Yeah, perfect. So, supposedly anything that is happening in my headset, उसका पूरा डेटा मुझे यहाँ पे मिलेगा, ठीक है? अगर मुझे मेरा परफॉर्मेंस भी चेक करना है तो मुझे यहाँ पे मिलेगा. बट दिस थिंग विल गो इट इन डिटेल लेटर. ओके. अगर रिकॉर्ड करना है तो आप रिकॉर्ड भी कर सकते हो. बहुत सारी चीजें आप यहाँ पे भी कर सकते हो. और अगर आप कोई एपीके इंस्टॉल करना है तो आप यहाँ से भी कर सकते हो. आपको बस ड्रैग एंड ड्रॉप करना है अपना एपीके और अपने आप वो इंस्टॉल हो जाएगा. नाउ दैट इज द एंडिंग पार्ट ऑफ इट. बट एक्चुअली में स्टार्ट करते हैं विद द यूनिटी इंजन. ओके. ये सब तो आपको एंड में करना, बट एक्चुअली यूनिटी इंजन में करना क्या है आपको. सो दैट मेजर पार्ट कम्स राइट हियर. So right here you have your Unity engine. This is a very fresh scene. Like यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं है, and it has nothing basically. And how do you make it so that you can work with it and like have VR applications in it? So for VR application, again, like what I have said is we have a Meta SDK. Okay, Meta XR SDK बोलते हैं उसे. Okay. Now, whenever you're using Unity, there are two SDKs you can use. Okay. There is XR interaction plugin and there is Meta SDK. Okay. Both of them have their different uses and both of them have a different way to approach an API. Now, coming to now, why are we using Meta SDK specifically? That is another question that you guys might have. ठीक है. अभी हम लोग के पास दो एस डी के है तो इस एस डी के में ऐसा क्या है कि हम यही यूज कर रहे हैं कि एंड लाइक व्हाई आर वी नॉट यूजिंग द अदर एस डी के. इट्स अ वेरी कॉमन क्वेश्चन. द आंसर टू दैट इज supposedly you if you're developing just for the meta applications. Okay, supposedly if you're developing for this headset and not for any other applications, that's when you use meta sdk. That's the core thing. But supposedly you're developing for something else. अगर आप अलग से हेडसेट्स के लिए डेवलप कर रहे हो जैसे कि वारियो हुआ या फिर स्टीम वीआर के लिए डाउनलोड कर रहे हो जैसे कि यू मस्ट हैव लाइक हाफ लाइफ एलेक्स या फिर पीसी में बीट सेबर खेला होगा विदाउट द क्वेस्ट. कोई दूसरा हेडसेट यूज कर रहे हो, एच टी सी वाइव यूज कर रहे हो, तो उसके लिए यू यूज एक्सआर इंटरेक्शन प्लगइन. ओके. So if you're using Meta and if you want all the Meta ke properties and like features, it is always suggested that you use Meta SDK and you don't use XR Interaction Toolkit. Okay. But you have it's a very good thing to use a combo of both things because it just makes things flexible. But since if you're a beginner, I would suggest you start with this because this has a lot of things that makes it easier for use. Okay. आपको बस 5 मिनट लगेंगे just to develop a simple VR application. Trust me when I say that. It has become that simple. Had it been like months ago, then it would have taken you an hour or like two to just set up the VR setup. And now they have made it so simple that it's very good. So now that you have this thing, first of all, like what would you need? Okay. First of all, you might need the plugin of Meta. ओके. तो आप प्लगइन कहाँ से डाउनलोड करते हो? ओके. प्लगइन का ऑप्शन आपके पास यहाँ पे है. विंडोज पे जाओगे तो विंडोज में दस पैकेज मैनेजर. इफ यू क्लिक ऑन द पैकेज मैनेजर यू हैव a lot of plugins. ओके. यहाँ पे कम दिख रहे हैं. द रीजन बीन इज बिकॉज this is like these are the only packages that are in this project right now. Okay. But if you click on this and if you click on Unity registry, okay, click on the package, click on this part, the package in project wala part, and if you click on Unity registry, you'll get a lot and a lot of plugins. Okay, these are all the plugins that are already there in Unity. ठीक है. But you will not see meta anywhere. ठीक है. यहाँ पे आप कहीं पे भी ढूंढने जाओ आपको मेटा मिलने ही नहीं वाला. So for that, like you might get Oculus and everything, but you're not supposed to use that. Okay, you're like supposed to use Meta because that is updated. That is the most latest plugin, and that will help you enable as much features as possible. So like Meta के लिए आपको जाना पड़ेगा Unity के asset store पे. Okay, so if you go to Unity asset store and if you search for Meta, it will give you a lot of APKs, so a lot of SDKs. Okay, a lot of SDKs. ठीक है. telemetry SDK क्या है, dictation SDK क्या है, a lot of them you might not even need it. ठीक है, a lot of the cases में haptic SDK क्या है, okay, you might not need it. Okay, you might not need it or you might not understand it now. What is it about? So like basically इतने सारे SDK है but मुझे उसमें से डाउनलोड ही क्या करना है मुझे पता नहीं है. So to simplify this, what these guys have done is they have just had a plugin. They have just had an SDK which is all in one. ठीक है. Instead of downloading एक एक करके लाइक ये सब SDKs, मेटा ने बोल दिया कि यार छोड़ो, मुझे इनको इतना ज्यादा ये नहीं देना है, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी नहीं देना है कि ये सब SDK लाइक एक एक करके डाउनलोड करे और खुद से मतलब बनाए. तो अगर मैं एक नया बंदा हूं तो मैं कैसे करना है, तो इट्स वेरी सिंपल. You just download this one SDK which is Meta XR all in one. ठीक है, all in one मतलब कि आप जो भी SDK जिसे आप पहले देख चुके हो वो सब इसमें आपको पहले से ही मिल जाएंगे. ठीक है. So again, like if you read the description, that is way better. देख सकते हो कि इसमें ये सब SDKs पड़े हुए हैं. But we'll get in depth as to like these are the SDKs, but what do they do? What do they do? Because SDK तो है, but if we don't know the purpose of those SDK, then it doesn't really matter as to like what we are doing right now. So before that, I'll just import those SDK. So यहाँ पे open Unity का button है. So if you click on that and if you just allow it to download, inside the package manager, it will ask whether you want to install the Meta SDK all in one. Okay. तो यहाँ पे एक install button होगा. So all you have to do is just click on install and let's just Unity take its own thing. Okay. So all you have to do is just wait for Unity to install the SDK. तो उसके बाद it becomes very easy for you to develop any VR application. Any VR application that you feel like. Suppose आपको आपको पूरा रूम स्कैन करना है, ठीक है. आपको आपके पूरे रूम को बनाना है कुछ mythical सा, like any mythical or any like battle zone kind of बनाना है, okay. You can do it with just one SDK, okay. If you want to make MR, you can make it in one with one SDK. If you want to make VR, you can make it in one SDK. You can also make it AR. You can also make phone AR applications as well. Not A, like I think you can make it with Ryan की glasses के साथ with this SDK. But yeah, so you just need one SDK to like kickstart yourself. So this might take quite a while. So like in case if you have any problems, you can always ask me so that I can always answer to your questions and like any queries that you have while we are in the session, a question will always be appreciated. So one good thing about this SDK is a lot of the things that you might need, as if a lot of things that you might need like कि बेसिक चीजें, ठीक है, जो आपको स्क्रैच से नहीं बनानी है. जैसे कि लाइक आपका बेसिक वीआर कैरेक्टर हुआ, आपको अगर हैंड ट्रैकिंग बनाना है, ठीक है, आपको स्क्रैच से कोड करने की जरूरत नहीं है. तो all these things are already there in this SDK and you can always like use like you can always like it is just one click away. So now that SDK has been like installed, just check in your console just so you don't have any errors or anything. These are like clearable. But just fine. This is also fine. This is also Unity ka error. This is fine. You can work without it. Now, after you have done installing the SDK, what is the thing that you do? Okay, is this it? Is that like is this the end of the SDK installation process? No, it is not. ठीक है. तो अगर आप फाइल पे जाओगे, फाइल के अंदर एक बिल्ड सेटिंग नाम का एक ऑप्शन है, ठीक है. तो आपको ये वाला एक बॉक्स मिलेगा. यहाँ पे अगर आप प्लेयर सेटिंग्स पे जाओगे तो आपको बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस यहाँ पे मिलने वाले. ओके, बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस है. सो this is necessary because you would want to choose as to like what you would want. Okay, do you want Android settings or do you want like the PC options? Okay, I think कुछ problem हुआ है. Wait. I'll just check the plugin. Unity Asset Store, my assets, Meta SDK, Meta All-in-One. Okay, it's there. Okay, so uh, couple of things you might want to make sure is that you need another plugin to start your entire journey, which is XR plugin management. Okay, XR plugin management का काम यही है कि like I have multiple SDK, उसे मैं साथ में कैसे चलाऊं. Okay, now I've told you this before कि there's Meta SDK and there is XR interaction toolkit. Okay, अगर मुझे दोनों को साथ में चलाने हैं और if I wanted to run simultaneously with Unity. Okay, वो कभी कभी अकेले नहीं चल सकते साथ में मतलब चल नहीं सकते ठीक है तो इन ऑर्डर टू मेक देम वर्क टुगेदर यू नीड दिस अनदर प्लगइन कॉल्ड एज एक्सआर प्लगइन मैनेजमेंट. ओके, तो इसको अगर आप इंस्टॉल करोगे आपको बहुत सारे और ऑप्शन मिलेंगे जिसमें लाइक आपके पास आपको चूज करना होगा कि लाइक ओके मैं किस डिवाइस के लिए बना रहा हूँ. करंटली आई हैव अ क्वेस्ट 3 डिवाइस. Since I have a Quest 3 device, now I can create it for Quest 3 as well. Okay, so I can just set it कि like मुझे Quest 3 के लिए बनाना है तो मैं वहाँ पे Quest 3 select कर सकता हूँ and it will automatically create a Quest 3 build for me. Okay, not now. I don't want to install it. Okay, XR plugin management install हो गया. Okay, now you have an option of Windows. This is Windows that you see here, and this is Android. If you're developing for PC VR, you might want to click on Windows. And if you're developing for Android, you might want to click on Android. Okay. दोनों में बस एक चीज याद रखना कि दोनों में Oculus को enable रखना है आपको. Okay. Android में enable क्यों रखना है? If you're making an application for Android, you need Oculus and Android enabled. But why for PC as well? Okay. अगर आपको दोनों में enable रखना है इसका मतलब पर क्यों रखना है? You have it for Android and you have it for Android just to create an application. But why do you have it on PC? You need PC for like testing it on PC. Okay. So जब तक आप इसको enable नहीं करोगे Oculus को यहाँ पे PC पे तब तक आपका PC VR चलने नहीं वाला कभी. So you can't even test it on editor. Okay. But if you click on that, you'll get another option here. So XR plugin management के अंदर Oculus भी आया. यहाँ पे मोबाइल पे जाओगे तो यहाँ पे you'll get other options as well. Sorry. Okay, यहाँ पे you just need to focus on two things. Okay, first is like your target device, and second thing is your stereo rendering. Okay, stereo rendering को make sure that it's on multi-view only. Okay, just one sec. Okay, fine. Stereo rendering को just make sure that is always on multi-view. The reason why I would say keep it on multi-view is because कि you would easily be able to render. Sorry, बेसिकली मल्टी व्यू का काम ये है कि अगर आपका एक आंख में रेंडर हो रहा है तो दूसरे आंख में भी सेम ही चीज रेंडर होना चाहिए. ओके, सो योर वीआर हैज टू लेंसेज फॉर राइट आई एंड द लेफ्ट आई. सो इट बेसिकली डज इंस्टेंसिंग फॉर यू. अगर आपका एक आंख का रेंडर हो चुका है तो आपका दूसरे आंख का भी अपने आप रेंडर होना चाहिए. तो आपका इससे प्रोसेसिंग का आपका परफॉर्मेंस जो है दैट बिकम्स बेटर in this. And the second thing that I would suggest you to look at is target devices. You can develop for Quest 2, Quest Pro, and Quest 3, depending on what you're developing for. I would suggest like keep all of them enabled. But आपकी स्टोरी यहाँ पे खत्म नहीं होती है सेटअप की. Okay, here you'll also find meta का icon. Okay, meta का button. Okay, so if you click on the meta का button, you might see like what is this? ये सब क्या है? मुझे समझ नहीं रहा है. ठीक है, अब ये सब लाइक वीआर वगैरह जो है इसे सेटअप करने के लिए इट टेक्स too many settings. Let's just say that. Okay, these are the settings that you have to change that you see. You need to like set the maximum API level to 32. ये सब करना है. Okay, now you can't go like and search individually कि like okay यार Android API level कहाँ पे मिलेगा, do I set it from here and everything. You don't have to do that now. Okay, there's just fix all का button. If you click on fix all, done. वो जो इशू था वो फिक्स हो गया। अब इस पे भी अप्लाई ऑल करोगे वार्निंग्स पे, that's it. Now you're ready for development. Now you can develop meta apps and build it without any hassle. So this is the first step that you should need to take. Like first of all, like whenever you have a meta application, just come to your project settings, go to your meta XR ka button, and make sure that there is no errors, there is no warnings. So regardless आप जो application बनाने वाले हो, आपको कभी problem नहीं आएगी. Okay. If you're developing for Android, आपको Android के टैब में जाके करना है. If you're developing for PC, you can always click on PC and you can just do fix all. Currently, I'm showing you how to do it for Android. Okay. So in Android, again, fix all करोगे. It will fix all the issues that you have, and then finally you are ready to go. आपका step number one हो गया. Okay. If you have reached here, that is like a big milestone that you have started to like learn Excel. Okay. Now, coming back to like, okay, मैंने setup कर लिया है पर इसके आगे क्या? Can I directly start VR? The answer is no. ठीक है, you can't directly start it. Reason being is because आपको एक character चाहिए. Okay, whenever you play any game or any like anything, like अगर आप कोई भी game खेलते हो, so whenever you play a game, you never play ऐसे. Okay, you have a character which represents you. Similarly, here we have a character which is called as a VR like we call it an OVR character, OVR human rig. Okay. तो OVR का जो कैरेक्टर होता है उसे इंपोर्ट कैसे करते हैं? इफ यू वर टू आस्क मी 6 या फिर 7 मंथ्स पहले, आई वुड से कि यार यहाँ पे प्रोजेक्ट पे जाना, एसेट्स पे जाना, यहाँ पे सर्च करो ओवीआर कैरेक्टर रिग एंड यूल ऑटोमेटिकली गेट एन ऑब्जेक्ट जो उसको आपको ड्रैग एंड ड्रॉप करना है. ओके, दैट इज व्हाट आई वुड हैव सेड like couple of months ago, but now these guys have made it simpler. यहाँ पे if you can see meta XR tools, if you click on it, there is something called as building blocks. Okay, this is something which is very new, and this is something that will make your life so much easier, so much easier. Okay, अगर आप ये वाला पार्ट समझ गए तो I mean half of your struggle of like making a VR project for this hackathon is done. Okay, like it's almost done. Okay, so if you were to click on this building block ka thing, it will give you this big window. Okay, this big window with a lot of options. Okay, these are prefabs. Okay, these are things which are already made by Meta, and now Meta is like कि okay, अब आपको यूज करना है ये सब चीजों को, आप बस ड्रैग एंड ड्रॉप करके यूज कर लो. ओके, एनीथिंग दैट यू वांट टू डू. if you want to if you want to use a controller, there's something for controller tracking. If you want to use your hands, suppose आपको hand tracking करके grab करना है, उठाना है, फेंकना है कुछ in VR or MR, you have an option for that as well. तो आपको कुछ करना नहीं है. Now it just becomes as simple as to like you have to just visualize कि like okay, what do I want to make and how do I want to make it? Okay. Suppose if my project for the hackathon is like, yeah, I want to like create a bow and arrow tool, उसके लिए हमको hand tracking चाहिए होगा. So you can just pick hand tracking here and just drag and drop it. Hand tracking अपने आप आ जाएगा scene पे. ठीक है. या फिर you want to be a bit like if you want to have like co-location का मतलब है कि यार मैं इधर अपना हेडसेट पहन के बैठा हूँ, मेरा दोस्त यहाँ पे हेडसेट पहन के बैठा है, हम लोग को साथ में खेलना है कुछ. ओके, सपोज हम लोग को साथ में कैरम खेलना है, टेबल टेनिस खेलना है, दैट इज कोलोकेशन. तो वो भी आप एक झटके में कर सकते हो. सो दिस बिकम्स अ वेरी पावरफुल थिंग, स्पेशली इफ यू वांट टू प्रोटोटाइप. ठीक है, हैकाथॉन के लिए कुछ आइडिया बनाना है पर उसके लिए टाइम नहीं है तो, और फटाफट बनाना है तो उसके लिए दिस थिंग इज द परफेक्ट थिंग फॉर यू. ओके, सो you can just see like there's a lot of options. Okay, but the start of all these options, like just to start all these options, what I would say is like go through the camera rig. कैमरा रिग क्या है? कैमरा रिग आपका बेसिकली ये वीआर हेडसेट है. ओके, कैमरा रिग हैज द कैमरा जिससे आप वीआर देखने वाले हो. सो हाउ डू यू इंस्टॉल इट? Simple way to install it is to just drag and drop it. If you drag and drop it, it will take some time to load. and you will get your VR character ready. Okay, this is your VR character. It is ready. Had it been, this thing is very new. So okay, like so, had it been couple of months ago, आपको ये सब जो चीजें हैं, ठीक है, लाइक कैरेक्टर रेग, उसके ऊपर ये डालो, फिर बाद में ये सब गेम ऑब्जेक्ट्स डालो. ओके, जस्ट कीपिंग, जस्ट stacking all these game object is what you had to do manually. Okay, suppose if you wanted to put a controller on this character, okay, आपको manually डालना पड़ता था ये सब, which used to be very tedious for like any developer, and it was very tiring to even approach this thing. Okay, because इनका API बहुत बड़ा है, आपको पढ़ना बहुत difficult होगा this thing. Okay, so in order to kickstart yourself, this is a very awesome thing to do. Okay, just pick any of these building blocks. ओके, पिक एनी ऑफ देम, जस्ट ड्रैग एंड ड्रॉप इट, वीआर पे एक बार चेक करो आपको कैसे फील होता है, एंड देन डिसाइड कि ओ वेदर आई वांट टू कीप दिस इन माय प्रोजेक्ट और आई वांट टू ट्राई समथिंग एल्स. ठीक है, उससे आपको बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस मिलेंगे टू ट्राई एंड टेस्ट इट. ओके, नाउ यू हैव द कैमरा रिग. कैमरा रिग मतलब कि प्लेयर है आपके पास, आपका खुद, आप खुद हो वीआर में, बट इसमें आपको और सारे ऑप्शंस मिलेंगे. ओके, सो इफ यू वर टू क्लिक ऑन द कैमरा रिग, and if you were to go down to the this section, the inspector section, आपको यहाँ पे OVR manager मिलेगा. This thing is again one of the most important thing, but it is simple. Okay, इसमें आपको ज़्यादा कुछ समझने की ज़रूरत नहीं. It is very simple. It just asks you questions. Okay, I would say like ignore the upper part, because the upper part that you see here, it is just a bit of high level stuff. You won't want to get into it. ठीक है, if you want to like actually explore thing, I would suggest go to the quest feature and explore thing. Okay, what is there here? You have like many options. अगर आपको hand tracking या फिर controllers चाहिए, तो आप यहाँ से select कर सकते हो. Okay, if you want your game to have only controllers, you can choose. If you want your game to have only hands, you can choose. If you want to have both, you can choose here. Okay, वैसे quest decide करेगा कि okay इसमें तो सिर्फ controller ही होना चाहिए, तो I will just give him controller का access. इस गेम में तो सिर्फ हैंड का एक्सेस मिलना चाहिए, तो आई विल जस्ट डू हैंड ट्रैकिंग. आई विल नॉट ट्रैक माय कंट्रोलर एट ऑल. ठीक है, हैंड ट्रैकिंग में आई वुड से ऑलवेज से मैक्स, बिकॉज उससे आपका हैंड ट्रैकिंग बहुत अच्छा बनेगा. उसके नीचे इट्स जस्ट बेसिक थिंग्स. पास थ्रू इज समथिंग लाइक, पास थ्रू इज बेसिकली अ डिफरेंट वर्ड ऑफ सेइंग कि लाइक यू वांट टू मेक एन एमआर एप्लीकेशन. ठीक है, अब मैं वीआर में बहुत सारी चीजें देख रहा हूँ, बट आई वांट टू ब्रिंग इट बैक टू माय रियल लाइफ. ठीक है, that bringing back to my real life in metas term is called pass through. Okay, तो अगर आप इसको required कर दोगे तो फिर आपका pass through चालू रहेगा. Okay, if you set it to none, that means you cannot access MR. Okay, similarly you have different stuff as well, like you can do face tracking कि like आपका face कैसे है, body को track कर सकते हो. कुछ boxing का game बनाना है तो आप boxing का game body से track करके बना सकते हो. So you can track the entire body, eye tracking, face tracking. Like you can make very interesting ideas with these features. It's just that you need to go down and explore the nitty-gritty of it, but it becomes very much fun. Okay, so this is the base foundation of OVR plugin. Before it was a lot, but now it has become very simplified. As much as like कि आप बस drag and drop करो, आपका VR character बन गया, MR character भी बन जाएगा. Okay, now couple of more things. Okay, now if I were to like play this, ठीक है, I only have my camera. ठीक है, मेरे पास सिर्फ कैमरा ही है, but I don't have anything else. I don't have my hands, I don't have my controllers, I don't have a reference of anything. ठीक है, मैं खुद के अलावा कुछ है नहीं. ठीक है, तो अगर आप ऐसे ही इसे खेलने जाओ तो आपको सिर्फ वीआर ही दिखेगा. You don't have your controllers, you don't have your hand, you have nothing. Okay, but you want to build on it. You don't want to keep it as nothing. You want to build on it. So building blocks पे वापस जाके you can decide what you want. Whether you want hand tracking or do you want controller tracking. For this thing, I would just suggest कि like controller is nice. So I would just drag and drop my controller. ठीक है. So controller अगर मैं डाल भी रहा हूँ तो it automatically assigns itself to like which object it should go to. ठीक है, game object पे जाना चाहिए. Some like before there used to be problems कि like अरे यार मैंने इससे बाहर ऐसे ही छोड़ दिया, that's why my one controller is not working. वगैरह वगैरह, like these are like problems that we used to face before in VR development. ठीक है, but अभी like it has become so simple कि like आप कुछ भी ड्रैग एंड ड्रॉप कर दोगे, आपका VR एक्सपीरियंस बन गया. ठीक है, which is very good because it enables a lot of people to like start prototyping things, अपना खुद का आइडियाज डाल के इनोवेट करके आप कुछ नया बना सकते हो इससे. And you don't have to like be stuck in recreating these minute feature ki like, okay, how do I grab this cube and everything. You don't have to be stuck there, which is very fun and very interesting. Okay, so now I'll be explaining you other things as well. Okay, you can connect the VR headset to your PC and you can test it, or you have another option. Okay, I'll give you another tip for the hackathon or like anything for the future that will help you in VR when using Unity. That is, you don't need a VR headset to make a VR application. And a lot of the people that might be very shocking. Ki like, okay, it doesn't make any sense. Ki like, oh yeah, I need a VR headset to create the application and everything. And how do I test my if my application is working correctly and everything? You don't need that. Especially now, you don't need a VR headset, especially to work on an application, to develop an application and to test it. ठीक है, अगर सपोज आपको टेस्ट करना ही है without any VR headset, suppose I don't have this VR headset at all. How do I even test this application in the first place? How do I see कि like okay, मैंने अपना hand का controllers तो डाला है, पर क्या वो काम कर रहे हैं? I don't know that. Okay, so how do you test it? There is something which will help you a lot, and that is called as Meta XR Simulator. ठीक है, Meta XR Simulator is what it says. Whatever that you see here, it will automatically simulate it in your PC as well. इसका फायदा क्या है? Why should I even use this thing? Okay, रैपिडली डेवलप करना है, मैं कुछ फटाफट डेवलप करना है, मुझे बार बार क्वेस्ट में जाके टेस्ट नहीं करना है. इट बिकम्स वेरी इनकन्वीनियंट अगर मैं क्वेस्ट अफोर्ड ही नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ, एंड इफ आई एम रेंटिंग क्वेस्ट ऑन लाइक डिमांड, and it becomes like expensive for me to do that. So I just need to do one thing. I'll just use my Meta XR simulator. एक बार मैंने अपना simulator use कर लिया, then all I have to do is just create my final application. That is the only time I will need this. Okay. आपके फाइनल एप्लीकेशन के टाइम ही आपको इसकी जरूरत पड़ेगी. उसके पहले आप पूरा पूरा का पूरा जो डेवलपमेंट है, that you can do it entirely here on Unity itself. You don't have to go to anywhere else. You don't need to own a VR headset, nor you need to have a VR headset to like create a VR application. Okay, so मेटा एक्सआर सिमुलेटर तो है मेरे पास, बट मैं इसे यूज कैसे करूँ? ओके, मेटा एक्सआर सिमुलेटर को यूज करने के लिए ऑल यू नीड टू डू इज गो टू मेटा. मेटा एक्सआर सिमुलेटर यहाँ पे होगा, यहाँ पे एक्टिवेट करो. ओके, व्हेन यू activate it, it will not automatically start. Number one, you have to play the press button. Sorry, play button. Sorry, you have to play the play button. You have to press the play button, and once you start that, your simulation will automatically begin. But this is very hectic. Okay, like going to meta, ये किया. Okay, I don't get that. ठीक है, मुझे एकदम सिंपल तरीके में करना है. So couple of choices you have is like that Meta XR tool का जो बटन है, वहाँ पे Meta XR simulator को एक्टिवेट करो. It has been activated. If you just click on it, it becomes activated. वापस मैंने बंद किया, it deactivates. Another way you can start this, that is very easy, is like besides your play button, there is this PC ka icon. If you click on this, your Metaxa simulator has started. That is the only thing that you have to use. You can see that it has been activated here. ठीक है, तो अब क्या करना है आपको? बस प्ले करना है. Okay, it will just ask you for allowing. Just allow it. ठीक है, this is the meta simulator. This is how I will see things in VR. Okay, I have my scene and I have my two controllers. Okay, अभी तक मैंने सिर्फ इतना ही किया. Okay, this is all. This is like the starting thing that you need to like create a VR application. इसमें आप मूव भी कर सकते हो. Supposedly, if I were to add a cube here, okay, if I were to add a 3D object of a cube, ठीक है। एंड इफ आई लाइक रीसेट इट, इसको मैं स्केल कर देता हूँ एंड सर 200 and 100, ठीक है। So I have this floor now and I have this camera rig that is exactly over here. Yeah, I have my camera rig right over here. ठीक है, मेरा जो character है वो यहाँ पे है. So I will just also place some, while I'm at it, I'll also place some spear and everything around. I'll just reset it. Five बहुत बड़ा हो गया. Five किया and I'll just place it around. Okay. Now if I play it again, I can always simulate it in real life. This is how my VR will look like. Okay, there's my cube. You can go around your cube. Suppose अगर आप slow चल रहे हो तो यहाँ पे और options है. Okay, supposedly you have other options as well. Yeah. You have the input speed. ठीक है. If you want to increase your input speed, यहाँ पे बहुत सारे options. Settings पे जाओगे तो फिर इनपुट स्पीड पे अगर आप जाओगे तो यहाँ पे अपना स्पीड बढ़ा सकते हो. तो अगर मैं फटाफट जा सकता हूँ यहाँ पे, I can go very fast, like in character view, and if I go, I can, if I like reduce it down, I can be very slow. You can always select कि like क्या चाहिए मुझे, hand चाहिए कि controller चाहिए. You can always select that कि like if you want to test controller in one hand and if you want to try your hand tracking in your other hand, you can always do that. Okay, so in your left hand right now it's your hand tracking, and in your right hand it's your controller tracking. Okay, so इसके ये सब करने के लिए मुझे VR headset का नीड नहीं है. आई डोंट हैव द नेसेसिटी ऑफ VR headset. So it becomes very easy. But supposedly, if you want to test it in VR headset, okay, what you would want to do is like just start the link application. So say Meta का quest link आप enable कर दो, and then inside your VR headset you should also want to enable the quest link feature. And in settings पे जाके just make sure that one of the things that I would suggest you is to have a Meta developer account. The reason being is because like once you have a Meta developer account, you have option to this beta वाला part. ठीक है. अगर आप बीटा पे क्लिक करोगे, you have an option of like developer runtime features, जिसमें आप पास थ्रू चालू कर सकते हो, आई ट्रैकिंग चालू कर सकते हो, और बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस चालू कर सकते हो विच यू कैन रन इट थ्रू योर VR हेडसेट ऑन योर PC. ठीक है. तो अगर मैं इसे पहनूंगा and I have the pass through enable, I will not see whatever is here. I will see whatever is in my environment. ठीक है. मेरा ये जो रूम है, मुझे हेडसेट से वो दिखेगा और मैं उसमें एप्लीकेशन टेस्ट कर सकता हूँ. ओके. सो योर फर्स्ट स्टेप ऑफ टेस्टिंग शुड बी इनसाइड द सिमुलेटर. देन अगर आपको सिमुलेटर पे लग रहा है कि हाँ मेरा एप्लीकेशन बराबर है, नाउ आई वुड वांट टू टेस्ट इट इन VR, you should jump to MetaQuest link. वहां पे आप टेस्ट करो and once you're comfortable, create an application, put it inside this device and then test it अलग से. So एक flow होता है. Okay, in development you have this one flow. If you follow it well, then it becomes very easy to develop anything. Okay. Now another thing that comes is like कि ठीक है यार, VR बना दिया, यहाँ पे मैं कुछ भी डाल दूँ, पहाड़ वहाड़ वगैरह डाल दूँ, वो बन गया. ठीक है. बट I don't just want that. Okay, whatever that I have it here. Okay, whatever I have it here, I would also want it in my room. ठीक है. Like मैं यहाँ पे रूम में बैठा हूँ, मुझे ये यहाँ पे भी देखना है कि like I want to make it into an MR application. I don't want it to be a VR application. Okay, how do I make it? So one thing that I told you is like using pass-through. ठीक है. अब I'll also delete this by the way. One thing you have to make sure is like you should always have one main camera in your scene. Okay, ठीक है. So it should either be this thing or it should be the main camera. So always make sure to delete the main camera. It will cause problems later if you don't do that. So वापस coming back to pass through. ठीक है. Like pass through is MR. ठीक है. अभी आप VR पे हो, ये सब VR पे दिख रहा है मुझे. ओके. सो इन दिस देयर इज आल्सो एन ऑप्शन ऑफ पास थ्रू. ठीक है. अब मैं पास थ्रू को एनेबल कैसे करूँ? आई कैन सी एवरीवेयर, आई कैन सी माई स्क्रीन, आई कैन सी एवरीवेयर. हाउ आई कैन एनेबल द पास थ्रू फीचर? ओके. पास थ्रू फीचर के लिए यू जस्ट नीड वन कंपोनेंट कॉल्ड एज पास थ्रू लेयर वगैरह. OVR पास थ्रू लेयर बोलते हैं इससे. ठीक है. अगर आपके पास ये है तो आपका पास थ्रू हो गया. दैट इज द ओनली कंपोनेंट यू नीड. ओके. If you can't remember it, one of the ways you can have it is by putting it from your building block. तो यहाँ पे you can see the pass through. If you drag and drop it, you get your pass through as well. Okay. So now if I were to play this, if I were to play this in my simulator, how is it supposed to look like? Okay. It will be looking like this, but opacity is high, right? I'll just simultaneously load it. Okay. So reconstructed, user defined. Okay. Yeah, wait. I know. So one mistake I did. Okay, ठीक है. So something that you would want to know is like कि uh, आपका जो एनवायरनमेंट है, ठीक है, वो अपने आप लोड नहीं होता. तो अगर आपको सिमुलेटर में भी लोड करना है, यू हैव ऑप्शन ऑफ सिंथेटिक एनवायरनमेंट्स. ओके. सिंथेटिक एनवायरनमेंट्स क्या है कि सपोज आपको एक बेडरूम का एनवायरनमेंट चाहिए, आपको एक गेम रूम का एनवायरनमेंट चाहिए, यू कैन हैव दैट रियल टाइम पे. तो आई विल ऑल्सो डिसेबल दिस ग्लोबल वॉल्यूम पोस्ट प्रोसेस वगैरह, ये सब भी बंद कर देता हूँ मैं. ठीक है. सो now that I have my environment, I'll just play this. Wow, it crashed. No, it's already running. Yes, I would like to do it. Okay. Now, if I were to go and pass through pay, I will just say user defined. So this black area that you would see here, that will be pass through by nature. Okay. ये जो देख रहे हो वो pass through ही है inside your VR headset. So I would say like it is better to just show you rather than to imitate. तो आपका बेसिकली जहाँ पे भी 3D मॉडल नहीं होता है, दैट एंटायर एरिया बिकम्स पास थ्रू. One of the way you can actually make it easier to identify is to remove the skybox. Now, Farada, I'll show you. Let me just connect it to Oculus Link. Okay. I have an application called as SideQuest, which where I will use to stream what my VR headset looks like. So this is what you can see. This is what my VR headset is looking like. I have this controller. Okay, this is my hand tracking feature and this is my controller feature. Now I can always, now whenever you plug this cable, you will get an option of Oculus Link. Okay, so अगर मैं इसे plug कर रहा हूँ, I will stream again. Start streaming. Wait. Okay, so there is this option of PC Link. Okay, so if you were to click on it, and if I were to launch it, I would say yes. I would like to do boundary. Okay. So with this now you can test it on PC as well. Okay. So I will just disable the pass-through wala thing. Now supposedly if I were to test it, okay. Okay, wait. Exit karna hai. Okay, so this is what you will see inside your Oculus Link. Okay, this is this application running. And I would just disable the MetaQuest simulator because until unless you disable it, it will not start here. So it will take some time to load, but this is basically my VR environment. That right there is my cube. I'll try to see if my controller is grabbable. Yes, it is. I can see my controllers moving. I can do everything. And disconnect. Yeah. So yeah, this is like a basic setup of doing things. You can see that the controller is moving. It is taking input. ठीक है, ये आपका फर्स्ट स्टेप हुआ। मैंने पास थ्रू डिसेबल कर दिया, बट supposedly keeping it side by side, I enable my pass through feature. So now you can see that इसका जो अपर पार्ट दिख रहा है राइट आपको, इसके नीचे इसके ऊपर वाला जो 3D मॉडल के ऊपर वाला है, दैट इज एंटायरली पास थ्रू, बट एवरीथिंग दैट इज ऑन हियर दैट इज जस्ट 3D मॉडल। ठीक है, तो सपोज अगर वो बॉल को मुझे ग्रैब करना है तो आई कैन ऑल्सो डू दैट इन पास थ्रू एंड एवरीथिंग। So it just becomes a very like strong and powerful tool for you to basically deep dive. Wait, yeah, I'm connected to Java. Shavi, am I audible? First of all, hello, hello.
Yeah,
Uh, I just have to make sure that it's not taking the Oculus audio. But yeah, you basically can make a pass-through application. मतलब आप MR भी बना सकते हो, आप VR भी बना सकते हो inside just one SDK, which is very awesome in a sense. ठीक है. Coming back to this, okay. So आपका SDK हुआ है, आपका पास थ्रू हुआ है, like let's also try hand tracking while we are at it, ठीक है. So again, we go to building blocks. There are virtual hands, which is basically a representation of your hands. I'll drag it here, ठीक है. I get my hand. यहाँ पे नीचे hand tracking भी होगा, which automatically enables itself. Okay. So now, if I were to try it in VR again, let me just plug it in, start stream. Okay. Okay. If I were to start the application and if I were to show you, I can see that my hand is getting tracked. Okay. One, two, three, four, five. Like my hand is getting tracked. You can do anything that you want with your hand tracking, but at the same time, आपका controller भी track हो जाएगा. Okay. तो आप हैंड ट्रैकिंग एप्लीकेशन भी साथ में बना सकते हो, साथ में एक कंट्रोलर बेस्ड एप्लीकेशन भी साथ में बना सकते हो. सो इट बिकम्स अ वेरी पावरफुल टूल साइड बाय साइड अगर इफ यू आर यूजिंग दिस एसडीके. So it becomes very easy for you to prototype things very fast. Uh, Now coming back to the next topic, which is UI. ठीक है. Now UI का एक misconception होता है कि in VR is like कि यार UI है तो it should be like on paper only. Like UI, we just need to make sure कि like it should be just on the screen वगैरह, like stuck to your screen. Iron Man जैसा like Jarvis होता है, which is on your screen. It should be like that, okay? But that is not how you usually approach things in VR and XR like entirely, because अगर आपका जो UI है इतना पास स्क्रीन के होगा तो आप देखोगे ही क्या. आपको आपको सिर्फ यूआई दिखेगा, आपको उसके पीछे का ज्यादा कुछ फोकस में ही नहीं आएगा. ओके. सो unlike normally how we do it, like suppose if I were to create a UI यहाँ पे and if I were to create a button यहाँ पे text mesh pro पे, ठीक है. Now just so you don't know what is text mesh pro, text mesh pro is basically another SDK which is provided for free by Unity. वो क्या करता है कि आपका जो टेक्स्ट है उसको अच्छा दिखाता है. इट इज मच बेटर देन यूजिंग यूनिटी का यूआई. ओके. सो दिस इज माय बटन. इफ आई गो टू गेम मोड, मुझे बटन यहाँ पे दिखेगा. बट इफ आई वांट टू पुट इट इन वीआर, विल इट बी द सेम? क्या मुझे बटन मेरे ये वाले आइस के कॉर्नर्स में दिखेगा? द आंसर इज नो, बिकॉज this entire UI that you see here, it is in 2D. Okay. तो आप जितना भी इस UI पे काम करो, आपके स्क्रीन में बराबर दिखने ही नहीं वाला. ओके. सो हाउ डू यू मेक इट लुक नॉर्मल? लाइक नॉर्मल भी मतलब कि लाइक how UI is done you in VR or any MR application is we make it into a 3D plane. ठीक है. सपोज यहाँ पे आपके पास एक ऑप्शन आया जिसपे आप लाइक हवा में क्लिक कर रहे हो. दैट्स हाउ वी डू इट इन वीआर. ओके. बिकॉज दैट्स व्हाट सेल्स द impression of VR. Okay, that's what sells it. So how do you do it? Any any UI that you make, you will have a canvas. आपको कुछ नहीं जाना है कैनवस पे। एक रेंडर मोड का ऑप्शन है, उससे आपको स्क्रीन स्पेस की जगह पे वर्ल्ड स्पेस करना है। ओके। स्क्रीन स्पेस का मतलब क्या है? स्क्रीन स्पेस का मतलब है इट इज ऑन माई स्क्रीन। वर्ल्ड स्पेस का मतलब है कि इट इज ऑन माई वर्ल्ड। ओके। नाउ इवन दो इफ आई मूव इट, इट विल नॉट बी ऑन माई फेस और इन माई स्क्रीन। ओके। सो अभी ये जो यूआई है, दैट इन कंपैरिजन विथ माई टीनी टाइनी कैरेक्टर इज वे टू बिग। ठीक है, बहुत ज्यादा बड़ा है। ठीक है, इतना बड़ा यूआई तो मैं देखने भी नहीं वाला कभी। ठीक है, तो हाउ डू यू मेक इट लुक नॉर्मल? ठीक है, लाइक इन अगर आपको मूव करना है, आपको ट्रांसलेशन करना है, अगर आपको रोटेशन करना है, आपको रोटेट करना है, पर अगर आपको उसको छोटा या फिर बड़ा करना है, what you do is you just set the scale of it. Okay, so I would think कि like इसका scale होगा 0.01, I think would be nice. It is somewhere around here now. Okay, now I'll just set the position to 0 0 0. ठीक है, अब ये UI आ गया है यहाँ पे। Okay, I have a UI over here which has a teeny tiny button. इस बटन को भी मैं स्केल कर लूंगा। Okay, now this button might be visible to me. Is it visible in the simulator? Let's just give it a try. Is it? I see a button right there. So let's just go and see it. इसका मैं speed बढ़ा देता हूँ. Okay. Now you have a button which you can like probably touch. You can't touch it. Why can't you touch it? Hmm, it's weird. It's probably so. Trinity में एक और अजीब चीज है in Meta XR, which is something which still infuriates me that आपका जो आप जो भी कैनवस पे बनाने वाले हो, राइट, बटन्स वगैरह, that as a UI itself will never work with Meta XR SDK. Okay, so suppose अगर आप controller tap कर रहे हो और if you want to click with your hands and fingers, it will never work. Reason being is because what Meta says is like कि आप जो भी काम कर रहे हो आप 2D पे काम मत करो, because according to them this is still in 2D. ठीक है, this is not a 3D model. So what they say is like कि you should work on 3D model, you should work with collision